Do you know in our normal, daily, mundane, everyday life, we live within fictions? Fictions, or the values which we inherit from our society without questioning, without actually scrutinizing them or thinking deeply about them. Values like belief that we have in things which are the first and foremost belief is like matter. What is matter? Where is matter? Just a belief. Like money, piece of paper has value. Who decides? Why? Just because collectively we all believe in it. Gold has value. And why? Well, belief. You see, and I'm not condemning this value judgment or belief system which are unquestioned. They are very necessary and important for society to function, for individual to function sanely in this vast, limitless cosmos we live in. You know, simple beliefs like up and down and left and right and north and east and west and south. What are these? Just beliefs. You know, what is Earth? Like, where is Earth in cosmos? In north or south? Just structures which are there to keep us sane. But once you realize that these are just beliefs, there is nothing absolutely true in this extremely relative prapancha we call Maya. Everything is compared with everything else in order to get its value, and on its own, nothing has its own independent value. When you really understand this, that nothing has its own independent value, there is no absolute truth in this Maya, something very interesting happens. And I want to discuss the ethical implications of what happens when some radical spirit suddenly opens the abyss under his feet and realizes everything is just floating in air. There is no absolute value. The first case I want to talk about is the man from 11th century Iran, Hassan I Sabah. Hassan I Sabah was an Iranian gangster. He created a garden in the mountains of Almut. He used to recruit young men, and he used to provide him within his garden everything the young man wants: woman, money, everything a young man can need. But there is one condition, that whenever Hassan al-Sabah says, you have to go out and kill this rich businessman, this powerful guy, this king, his follower, his disciple has to go out and execute the murder. And there is 99% chance that that guy will die too. So there was a secret doctrine inside his castle where there is only one line written for everyone to follow. All his followers only believed in one line, and that line was written as, nothing is true, everything is permitted. You see, when you realize the emptiness of all values in samsara, you have nothing to hold on to. The existential harakiri happens, an emergency occurs, where fear sweeps away everything. And there is nothing to hold on to. Your literal earth beneath your feet is taken away. And you hold on to any belief system you can in order to survive, your ego to survive. And that's where Hassan al-Sabah enters in these young people's life. And he says, nothing is true, so everything is permitted. They used to smoke hashish before they go out and kill. And they used to be feared as hashish eaters, assassins. The word, English word by the way, assassin, comes from the hashish, because they used to consume hashish before going to kill, so they can kill in this stupor of hashish. This is the ethical implications. This might happen when you radically deny all the conceptual, societal, inherited value systems. He was the first father of Fidains. He was the inventor of Fidain terrorists who give their life, because if everything is permitted, then the very value that life is better than death can be altered, can be used in a very sinister way to manipulate young guys in order so they can do a suicide. The second case of what happens when this outside ethics fall away, outside values fall away, is Friedrich Nietzsche. Friedrich Nietzsche famously said, there are no facts, only interpretation. In other words, nothing is true, everything is permitted. If everything is permitted, Nietzsche said, why not become the best version of yourself? That is one more ethical implications. First ethical implications was Hassan al-Sabah. He said, if everything is permitted, if nothing is true, everything is permitted, then why not kill and die? There is no boundary between killing and suicide. There is no value hierarchy between life and death. In the same way, Nietzsche interpreted this. He also understood the basic axiom of the kernel of truth in the statement. There is no outside ultimate value, nothing is true, there is no fact, Nietzsche said. That's why there is only interpretation. If there are only interpretation, then why not interpret human being as something beyond human? That is his ethical implication out of this statement. Human beings should become beyond human, an Ubermensch, something, Superman. You see, first we discussed about the origin of accessions. Now we are talking about origins of Superman. Problem with Nietzsche is that he has no being, only becoming. He has nothing higher to hold on to in order to overcome human. In order to overcome something, you need something over in order to overcome. You see, he has no being. He has no fulcrum on which he can push his will and overturn the human. But a very noble effort, but it ended in misery and madness. Friedrich Nietzsche died mad, senile, and miserable. But a very good attempt. A second ethical implication of what happens when nothing is true, everything is permitted. The Frankfurt School, German. Third ethical implication, the philosophy of postmodernism. When they copy Nietzsche in deconstruction, but they don't have this courage. The postmodernists don't have courage of Nietzsche to reevaluate all value and create something for themselves. So what happens when these postmodern philosophers, the phrase nowadays is very popular that everything is a social construct. It's true. If you deconstruct every social construct, what remains? Nothing. Madness follows. You see, without any hierarchy, madness follows. Man is woman, woman is man. You know what I'm talking about. Everything. No higher goals, no hierarchy. Drift. People just drift endlessly. There is nothing worth dying for. There is nothing worth living for. There is no courage. Courage is not a virtue. This heapless, powerless, no vitality. Stupid people. But they had to catch the kernel. Everything is a social construct. It's true. You see. So what to do? If the statement is true, that there is no independent value on its own. If that statement is true, well, what does Veda say about this? Well, even Vedanta and Vedas agrees that we live in Prapancha, in Maya, and Maya is relativity itself. There is no absolute. But doesn't mean there is no absolute. There is no absolute in an external world. The absolute is transported from externality to absolute internality. Your own being, not your ego, as Nietzsche tried to do. Not your body to be sacrificed, as Hassan al-Sabah tried to do. Not your whimsical desires, like postmodern people try to do. But your own being, absolute subject, pure awareness, is the only truth, an absolute truth which exists independently outside time and space. That is the real fulcrum, a real Archimedean fulcrum, which you can use to topple the whole entire cosmos, upside down, inside out. You see what happens once you agrees that we live in Maya, we live in some simulation which has no ultimate value. Veda says you don't commit suicide like Hassan al-Sabah, you don't go mad like Nietzsche, you don't become stupid and senile like postmodern philosophers, but you must transform and get liberation out of this simulation. And this transformation happens when this inner truth is imagined as fire and all the impurities are burned. And this transformation we call sadhana, a spiritual practice of burning impurities within oneself. Only solution I have found about this radical statement, and it's only good, not good in a moral way, but it's only legit ethical solution. What should be done if the statement is true? If there is nothing is true. If everything is permitted, then you must first liberate yourself. And you should become superhuman, like Nietzsche said. But this superhuman has a divine core at its center, a silent center, being, consciousness, bliss, a silent center which can transform the entire individual. So no spiritual existential harakiri of suicide of Hassan al-Sabah, no egoistic self and self-aggrandizement of Friedrich Nietzsche, drifting without any meaning like postmodern people, transformation, liberation, truth, beauty, consciousness, power, immortality, sacrifice, Veda, Vedanta. Only true solution, my friend. No other solution of this statement. If you ever realize this statement, nothing is true, everything is permitted. Or in Vedantic sense, Jagat Mithya, nothing is true, but Brahma Satya.